All right, welcome back, everyone,
to another exciting episode of the Terrorisk podcast.
Hells yeah.
Here with Chris Kim. How's it going, Chris?
Good. It's Labor Day.
Yeah.
You said Memorial Day before on the phone.
I did, accidentally. I forget which holiday is which, even though Labor Day is the end of summer one. Yeah. Labor Day exists so that you have a fashion statement with it. No white after Labor Day. It's a reminder that exists.
What does that mean, like no white? Like
white wearing white clothes. So after, white pants, not white dress shirts, but like white pants, white jacket, what have you.
So after Labor Day, you could just never wear white again, ever.
Not until not until Memorial Day when summer starts. It's two different holidays that people mostly forget about, and you grill during both of them. They exist primarily for a day off from work from some jobs, but not others. Labor Day was related to the labor movement and all the various forms of mainstream socialism that used to exist. They fought very hard so that we can have one day off from work.
Well, so that's...
I don't know. There's probably more details to it or how it was passed. But in many ways, it's just a day that exists so that kids know summer's ending and they have to go back to school soon.
I don't know. I would never wear white pants. Like, what if you get like sweat stains?
Oh, you stain very easily. I have white jeans and they stain very easily.
Like, you know, when you're drinking too much and you get a little drip of pee on your pants. At least when you're wearing black pants or
it blends in. Yeah. It's easy to hide. Yeah, I don't know. It's a pleasant enough aesthetic. I guess you have all white parties if you're black or Jewish.
Yo, by the way, I'm so glad I got the Centauri whiskey today.
Why is that?
I don't know. I'm always drinking like some dark ass shit like bourbon or fucking scotch, like Black Label. I feel like Centauri is
shit. Sorry. Still a dark liquor. It's still a dark liquor. It's not vodka. Gin.
Yeah,
it's not white rum.
Yeah, but Centauri, I think, is like the whiskey you use for highballs.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, so I want to talk more about what we were talking earlier in the car about how
I'm fine.
When you're in your late teens and early 20s.
Yes.
Yo, are you sure you're able to smoke this?
No, I've had enough.
What?
I've had enough.
Oh.
Don't pass it to me. I'm good.
Okay. Maybe you should take a sip and then you can.
Yeah, I agree.
Well,
when you're in late teens, early 20s.
Yeah. Getting with girls is a little different because you could just get by on
because no one's accomplished anything yet. So you get by on aura. Yeah. You get by on personality, appearance, etc. A lot of guys have the experience of hitting 30-something or hitting 30, and suddenly dating gets a lot harder because they're just getting by on looks or aesthetic or potential that they had that they no longer have. You shift from someone that has that to someone who, it's not that it's over for you, but you actually have to show something at that point.
Okay, so to reiterate that point, as like a 19, 20 something, 27, 25, 26, like if you're still in your 20s, you just literally have to show up.
Yeah.
Just show up. Don't be fucking hideous. Be like somewhat personable and you'll probably get laid pretty easily.
Yes.
Now when you're in your 30s, it's not like that. When you're in your 30s, it's more like well, it's more effort, you know? And also
more effort, have to show something for yourself. And it can hit you very abruptly if you got by on one thing all throughout your 20s.
Well, when we're talking about dating, like another thing that hits our age group very abruptly is single motherhood.
Yeah.
You know, that's like something that no one really anticipates.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, guys are like, yeah, there's no need for me to go chase after younger girls, like 21-year-old girls. I don't need that shit. I could just find girls my age. And then they go to girls their age and they're all like busted, crazy, single moms.
I mean, a big factor is that that's the single female population you're dealing with. Because a lot of other women have married, they have kids, they have families.
Yeah.
The pool shrinks. For all the talk of the wall hitting women, which is true, it also hits men very strongly.
That's not true. I don't think the wall is the same for men. I think
No,
the
it's
wall,
not the same.
I
But
think the wall
it's
is
the
much,
same if you're someone who's not putting any effort into anything.
I think the wall is much more brittle for men than it is for women. For women, first of all, they have a biological clock.
Yes, that's very true.
Second of all, their value is heavily, way more tied to their looks than guys.
Yes, that's true.
And it's also actually self-imposed. Like no one's forcing women to think I don't feel valuable unless like a guy wants to fuck me. You know?
Yes,
like,
that's true.
Unless like 10 guys try to fuck me in a day, like I don't feel like I'm worth anything. You know?
Yes.
For guys, it's different because for guys, I mean, with that question of like self-worth, women have the problem of like very hard barriers, a very like thick wall that once you hit it, you hit it. Like you had a kid with the wrong guy and now no one's going to respect you for it. You know, it's like you're going to be bitter about it. And, you know, it's basically a slippery slope down like just lonely land. But for guys, it's very different. Like for guys, the barrier is a lot more transparent, but more psychologically powerful. You know, for example, like there's a lot less materially holding men back, no matter what age group you are.
Yeah.
There's a lot less materially holding men back from actualizing like something incredible. You know, you could be like 80 years old, not doing shit your whole life and just fucking around. And then at 80, you happen to write like this beautiful memoir.
Yes.
Or this like incredible, you know, piece of...
And suddenly your desirability spikes.
Yeah, because you're sharing something, you're sharing like worldly experience, you know, like as a lonely man, as a man who's forced through solitude most of his life for whatever circumstance, he's going to look at the world in a very profound way. Whereas women don't do that. When women experience the world through solitude, like through the lens of solitude, they get very bitter. They get very like annoying about it. You know, it's like, oh, so what? You spent your whole fucking life alone. Like plenty of great men spent the bulk of their life in solitude, and you're gonna tell me like you got something to bitch about it? Make something out of it, you know? And they can't even do that. But I don't think it's their fault. I just think it's because like, you know, social, like the more social element of human dynamics is leaning more towards the feminine aspect, you know, whereas guys are definitely more antisocial. I mean, in tendencies, like what I would always say is an undisciplined woman is more of a threat to herself, whereas an undisciplined man is more of a threat to society.
Yeah, that's a very good assessment.
Yeah, I mean, it's true though. But it's also what that says is there's going to be more external forces. Like,
and men externalize their anger, their issues, etc.
Well, regardless of what men do, I mean, what's done to men, I'm saying like, like there's a lot less forces. Like men are basically more of their own worst enemy. Women are more of like society's enemy. You know, they get like oppressed by society. They really do.
That's true.
But like men oppress themselves. They do a pretty good job at that. Or each other.
Much like the difference between Dostoevsky and Nietzsche, where all of Dostoevsky's issues were with society as a whole, women's issues are far more external. Where there's an irony there because women will not lash out externally very often, but men will.
Yeah, because if women do that, they'll die.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Men can take far more of a chunk out of society
at one time.
At one time, and then they've blown their load.
Yeah. So let's talk solutions now. If you're a guy in your 30s and you haven't locked down some solid pussy yet, you're not gonna like hearing this. I mean, especially if you live in a city like New York, like you're not gonna enjoy this advice because it's saturated with irony, but it's beautiful irony. I'll explain. So nowadays, like in our age group, like early to mid 30s, as a single guy, you got to just forget about socializing, forget about women, forget about dating. What you have to really focus on is that one passion, that one hobby, just that one thing that doesn't require other people. It doesn't require like the participation of your friends or a girl or your family. Like you don't need anyone to do this. This is just something that no matter what anyone tells you at any given time, this is just something you'll always love doing, no matter who's in your life or who's not. Like for me, it's martial arts, cycling, making music, I guess podcasting. I mean, podcasting is probably the most social of my hobbies, but like, you know, everything else generally is very self-contained. Like when you could like source your own entertainment, like you have a very, very solid advantage in life. Because truthfully, it's all about energy. I mean, that supersedes everything. That supersedes power, influence, money. With no energy to enact upon any of it, like it's pointless.
Yes.
So when you master how to cultivate and protect your energy, you're gonna realize a lot of things work better for you, including women. Now, I say it's ironic because think about it. By the time you get to you're gonna be so engrossed in like what actually gives you fulfillment instead of some like little bit of pussy or some like some social scene like treating you like God's gift to whatever. Yeah. Hopefully that didn't make too much of a difference. But yeah, if you're hopefully you can actually like, I don't know, find that thing and just stick to it,
Men, particularly within that age bracket, have to lean into their talents and make something of themselves. Have to accomplish something, even if it's nothing that gets them paid or is even wide social prestige. It's just showing that you're putting the effort into something.
Well, yeah. And the prestige does come naturally when you stick to doing something. Like that's just true.
Yes.
So yeah, if you're hankering for some pussy right now in New York City as a single man in your 30s, forget about socializing, forget about women, forget about all that shit. Just focus on you. And that sounds like the most new agey fucking like white
this
girl
is advice for both of us, I take it.
What?
This is advice for both of us as men in our 30s in New York City.
Well, I'm kind of like, I mean, I'm giving the advice in a certain context that you're actually looking for pussy. Like, I'm really not. Like, I'm not trying to get myself to. I mean, I'll get laid here and there. If it doesn't really, if it's like not too high stakes. Like, yeah, if it's not like highly committed, if it's not a highly committed situation, sure, I'll go for it. It's just, especially in my, being around so many fucking like single mothers, in our age group, I'm like, yeah.
We're also on Staten Island, but yes.
I mean, anywhere. It's like I don't want to fuck with that. Like I don't want to be entangled into your shit. It's not just single mothers. It's also like polyamorous women. Like all sorts of women who are trying to like game the system after they've been fucking around for so long. It's like one wants to be a single mother and tries to pretend to be a girl boss when really you're just a hag. Another girl like is just too fucked up to pair bond with a single guy because she's too much of a hoe or she's got a repressed slutty side, and so now she's like poly, right? It's like just weird shit like that. And like, yeah. And look, I'm not bitter because I'm not expecting like the world to be full of single, eligible, have their shit together women just ripe for the picking. Like, no, I don't think that's how the world should be at all. I'm just saying there's a reason why I'm single. And it's not because like I don't necessarily want to be. It's mostly because there's things that I care about more where I realize if I fall into a relationship with this person, whether it's a single mom, whether it's a drug addict, whether it's someone with some fucked up emotional issues, it's like that's not worth it. I'm sorry. Right.
It's interesting how it's an abrupt change from one bracket of life to another. It doesn't seem, perhaps it is, but it doesn't seem like a gradual transition.
It is gradual.
I guess it depends on where you live.
No, I mean, it was gradual. We just didn't. Yeah. We just ignored it.
We just ignored it. We didn't know it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was truly gradual. All the signs were there from the get-go.
True. And compared to a decade ago in our lives.
And you know what's funny about it?
Things flowed and how cavalier you could be at the time.
And you know what's funny about it? No one, like we all saw the signs and no one did the right thing until it was like pretty much too late. Present company included.
Yeah, same.
I should have focused.
Perhaps people who get married or a long time in a stable relationship are the people who have actually seen the signs and paid attention to it.
Yeah, I fucked up my own engagement. I probably could have been in a happy marriage right now. It's just, I mean, do I regret what I did? Sure, but not because of like what it did to me. I regret what I did because of like how much I hurt the person at the time. But
yeah,
like I don't hate my life at all. Because as a result of what I did, I kind of just hate how my actions affected other people. But that being said, what I'm saying is like, the answer was never other people. The answer was never finding the right person, finding the right friends, surrounding yourself with the right people, being surrounded by love. Like, that's gay shit. That's externalizing your, you know, your responsibilities. Like, don't fucking do that. Don't project your satisfaction, your contentment on other people. That's weak. You know, people like you wear that as a virtue. It's like, oh, I'm surrounded by love. I'm surrounded by so many people who care about me, who blah blah blah, so who support me. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, no one like, that's not gonna do you any favors, you fucking moron. Like, it's like it's like you sound like one of those 20-year-old sluts on Instagram. Like, oh, I got the perfect man. He's like 45. He's a millionaire. He pays for all my shit. I never have to work a day. It's like, all right, great. Like, cool.
Yeah.
First of all, those relationships are never happy and they never last either.
Well, it might be interesting at the time for the women. I don't know. I remember when I was that age, seeing women with older men filled me with frustration. But at the same time, I also had other options swirling about. It's curious, the situation of competing with an older man sexually, particularly when you're a man in your early 20s, early mid-20s.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever had that experience where you got outplayed by an older guy.
No, never.
It happened a few times to me. Perhaps.
I mean, there may have been cases where like a girl I've dated a lot of girls, and there may have been a case where like a girl I was seeing, like, I mean, all right, when I say dating, I don't mean serious. Like, I've had flings, I've had like week-long situationships and all that shit. I'm just saying, like, I'm sure there have been cases where like a girl I've been with was cheating on me with some older guy, like, and I just didn't know about it. 100%. Like, I don't doubt that at all.
It wasn't situations like that. It was just like failing in flirtation or in engaging with a woman, and a guy who was older who was around won out or seemed to have more interest.
No,
there's also times when
I never experienced that.
When a girl was hitting on an older guy and he rejected her, and then I was her second choice.
That's
including
funny.
In one case where the guy in question very overtly loaded her off onto me, which I appreciate that. I was in my early 20s. He was in his 40s. The girl was late teens. And he's like, I'm not interested in her, but Carmen, you should fuck her to get her off my back.
That's funny. So,
which is very kind of him, even though we had a falling out over politics like a year or two later.
I'm sorry.
Nah, it's fine. He was just a Gen X liberal, so it makes sense.
He's a retard.
Yeah. During the Obama administration, we could be friends, but when Trump won...
What the fuck can those people even do? Gen X. Fucking Gen retard. Like, fuck, those people are all useless as shit.
9 years ago.
All right, so...
But I appreciated the friendship at the time, and I probably could have been more polite to him about issues unrelated to that.
No, so I can't really relate to that because... when it comes to girls in particular, like, most girls aren't into me. However, and it's not like such a small minority, but it is a relative minority.
Yeah.
So the relative minority that is into me is really into me. You know, like, it's like if they're the type of girl that would have a kind of even like the faintest interest in a guy like me, like I probably got him. You know, like because like usually it's like if they're girls that would entertain like, you know, another kind, especially living in America. So if there was like, you know, the type of girl that would entertain another, she would definitely go for that other guy. However, if there was like even the slightest chance where they would like really consider, you know, getting with me, I'll probably get with them, you know, because like it's just like that for me, you know, like it's I guess that's just the benefit of nuanced like identity, you know, like everything from like your psychological profile to your demographic to your ethnicity and to your class and all that shit just coalesce into something that particularly everyone's unique, but some people are just like a little more unique than others, you know. And that's not even tooting my own horn because I can say I'm more unique than others, but that's not always a good thing, you know. Like, you know, so it's like it goes both ways. Like the nail that sticks out gets the hammer, but also the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah. Squeaky wheel gets the oil.
I call it grease.
Yeah, I forgot how the idiom goes.
Yeah, so that's why I can't really, I don't know, I can't say I've been played out by an older, there had to have basically been an older version of me, you know? Like,
I see.
For that to have happened, like, more often. Also, like, I don't know, maybe I never really, like, hung out with too many significantly older guys like that.
Perhaps. I don't know. Maybe it's just a particularity of me or of any personal failure. Not even failures, but I didn't mind at the time because I had a bunch of options and because I was far more ideologically driven at the time.
Well, now I'm like fucked when it comes to relationships because now
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, you know, because I had a whole spiritual awakening. So now I literally view everyone as the same soul living out different lifetimes in different bodies.
Yes,
so I'm
yes.
not going to break my back to go chase after pussy when she's just another version of me. That feels like borderline incestuous at that point, you know? So it's like,
Or masturbatory.
yeah. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, every once in a while, like pussy will throw itself at me and I'd have to be stupid to say no. But like, it's never really like a situation where it's like you complete me because I'm like, you're just another version. I don't know. Like different people are going to take that differently. Like some people are just going to be like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Other people are going to be like, souls aren't even real. And other people will be like, oh, wow, you know, I never thought about it. I never thought about it like that. And you might have a good point there. And I do. I have an excellent point there. There's so many people like force themselves to suffer over being with just like another version of them.
Yeah.
I mean, why do you think like the whole Buddhist, that's the whole Buddhist tenet of like, I don't know, celibacy, right?
Yeah, among monks.
It's not really about avoiding sex. It's like you don't even want it because you're like, I'm looking at you and you're just another incarnation of me.
Yeah, I don't know. Lord Buddha has statements about celibacy or its value, both largely spiritually, but also as a virtue. And at the same time, Buddhist countries are declining in population. One of the most prominent Buddhist countries, like Southeast Asia, though in a lot of places, been fading. Korea, heavily Christianized and atheist eyes. I suppose Japan, but Japan exists in its own syncretic tradition with Shintoism and Zen Buddhism, which has a bunch of elements from Taoism.
What's really fucked up is I know I could help so many of my friends out. Because I have a lot of depressed friends, and I would just be in the car with them, and I'd be like, "Have you ever even left the country?" And they'd be like, "Nope." I'd be like, "What? Like you never?"
They're stuck within a certain lifestyle or mindset or mental frame.
And if I didn't have my cat, it would be so much easier for me to just be like, "Yo, this weekend we're just going to Japan." Like what? It's like, yeah, I would just pay for a round trip. Like we go Friday, we come back Sunday, stay there for a day. We're going to Japan, or actually, no, Japan's just no. Wait,
not for a day.
Yeah, you can't do that.
You should do it for multiple days.
I could say like South America, you know,
yeah,
like,
Mexico City.
Or Mexico. It's like we're going to Mexico for the weekend, or it's like we're going to or Canada for the weekend, or how about even a week? It's like, yo, I have a week off work. I'm taking you with me to, you know, another country for a week, and I think like it's just I know I can financially do that. I just can't leave my cat like that.
Right.
I can't just.
Well, you just need a cat sitter, no?
I don't know if I trust a cat sitter. I never did that before. You know? I mean, I would trust you, but I would trust like, would you live in my apartment for a week to like watch my cat?
Your apartment's in Staten Island, so it's out of the way.
Yeah, but you know how to get around.
Yeah, that's true.
You know how to get to the ferry from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't. I don't know. I don't think a good idea would be to like. Maybe a better idea would be to like take my cat to my dad's, or what I could do is I could get my sister and be like, "Yo, stay in my apartment for a week. I'll pay you like $500.
Yeah.
Watch my cat," and she'll be like, "My dad will be okay with it, I'm sure."
Yes.
I'll just be like, "Don't touch my shit."
That'd be a good way of going about it.
I mean, my computer though, like I'd have to let her fuck with the computer because you can't not let a person fuck with your computer.
Yeah, or your television.
But then again, she has her own like laptop, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like, kids these days.
The television's a bigger factor.
I can't even call her a kid. She's like in the army now.
How old is she?
19, 20.
Okay.
20.
So she just joined. She's going to be there for a few years.
She's already been there for like a year or two.
Okay.
For the record, the reason why I don't know her age like on point is because she's my half sister.
Yeah.
I mean, like I know her very close relative, approximate age, just not her full age because
you don't live with her.
Yeah, I wasn't raised
There's a
with
significant age gap.
Yes.
Different personalities, different individuals,
different generation.
Though you'll probably more likely to grow closer in adult when you're both in adulthood.
Yeah, she's hardcore Gen Z though.
Yeah.
Her and her brothers, like they're like all the same. You know, they're just staying in their room.
Yeah.
Glued to the screens.
It's interesting how you being a decade older and growing up in New York, you just naturally were more outgoing, and also different personalities. Different.
I think that's just generational, not even just New York. Like it's just.
I think the biggest
like,
factor is probably the genetics from your mother compared to their mother.
You think so?
Yeah, I tend to lean towards genetic determinism, but
I mean,
you're right. There's a
way.
generational factor with the technology.
Well, yeah, that
you
that's
grew
true.
up with CRT monitors and a big tower computer.
Yeah.
There's more reasons for you to get out, get into trouble in real life than they have.
True.
But I can't help but to think that there's also a factor in your genetic differences, even though you're very closely related.
Yeah, because my biological mother was a fucking party animal.
Yeah,
and my my stepmother is a homebody, so it makes more sense that her kids. I mean, they still have that little weird evil streak from my dad. You know,
yeah,
I see it in them.
But they don't have the party animal streak that you have that they don't have.
Yeah, that's 100% true. Now, what's funny is the whole, like, kids these days, they do that. They're definitely hooked on their screens and they're less outgoing. They're less about like meat space living. But what I do think is that no matter how glued they get to their screens, reality doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't change anything. So what I think will happen for them is, like, Gen Z kids, what often happens is it just gets put off until like later in life, and when it hits, when that like material element of like openness and like experiencing actual real life, it's gonna hit them like 100 million times harder, you know? Like,
yeah, and probably aging will hit them harder than even millennials, because
to reverse aging, that's different. To reverse aging, that's exceptional in any generation. To reverse aging, you got to really know how to master your energy.
Yeah.
There's actually a really funny story. I'll interject for a second with the story, but like, apparently, legend has it, Genghis Khan discovered an old man who was like hundreds of years old or whatever.
Yeah,
he just didn't die. So they brought the old man before him, and Genghis Khan asked him, "It's like, how did you live for so long? Like, how do you not die?" And this geezer goes, "Well, the secret to eternal living is no sex, no contact with women, don't talk to women, don't look at women, don't go near women, and you will live
and
forever."
Genghis Khan, one of the top players of all time,
he did not listen.
Immediately died from shock at the idea that no pussy is a secret to eternal life.
No. So the story, that's the incomplete story. When I told apparently what goes on, what afterwards, it's Genghis Khan goes, "Oh, interesting. Okay, so as reward for telling me the secret to immortal life, what would you like as a reward?" And the old man goes, "Well, I would like to die."
So Genghis Khan brought in a bunch of topless women to trigger an immediate death from female overexposure to the geezer.
Yeah. And he died from having sex. He
Yeah.
probably had like all sorts of pussy. He probably had pussy. Yeah. He probably had Caucasian pussy. He had Asian pussy. He had it all.
Well, probably limited or no African.
Yeah, but
that just because of where he ranged. But yes, all throughout Eurasia, yes.
He wouldn't have been happy in Africa, and the Africans would not have been happy where he was.
That's true. That's a good point.
So it was just like a natural...
It's a very cold, dry environment.
Yeah, 100%.
The open plains. And not like the Sahara.
I prefer that, though.
Steppe.
I prefer the open plains, but I do think I can adapt in the Sahara. The only thing is it would take a long time for me to like readjust my aesthetic value system.
Yeah.
That's really it. If I could match the aesthetics, I could adapt. I realized this I didn't know this about myself, but like it wasn't until being put through like relatively extreme things through like programs, like, well, especially being in the Scouts at a young age. And it's like,
yeah,
I'm not saying like they abuse you there, like, you know, like a boot camp, but if you do it long enough, like you're going to come across some bullshit and you're going to have to deal with like a lot of like cold weather, hot weather bullshit, like elements bullshit, you know, like while we're here.
Well, that's something that's very normal to humans throughout human history, and it's very foreign to a lot of humans today, at least in the developed world.
Yeah, and it's also
even
like
outside of it.
And in some of the cases are dire. You know, it's not even like you meant for this to happen. It's just, well, we were going from point A to point B on our recreational camping trip, and now we're in a situation where it's like, all right, something went really bad, and now like we're actually like, we got to fix this, otherwise we're in trouble. You know, like,
yeah.
Just because.
How long were you in the Boy Scouts?
A little while, a few years. I was actually in it long enough to be in two different troops. I was in first I was in Troop 85, and then I changed addresses, and then I ended up in Troop 5 in and they were all both in Staten Island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a bunch of medals from it, or
Merit badges.
merit badges.
I have a few merit badges. I learned how to shoot in the Boy Scouts. That's where I realized I wasn't bad at shooting. And in fact, that experience of shooting and archery gave me a lot of confidence starting like swordsmanship. I was like, I could handle a fucking weapon, you know, like
that martial experience. Yes.
Also, yeah, I was doing karate since I was like 6.
Right. I could see it. How good are you at marksmanship in general? Are you better at melee martial arts?
I bet I'd be better at marksmanship, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's just naturally better. But the only thing is, like, I'm so practiced in swordsmanship now. Like, I don't know. I'm having trouble thinking of like anything I could do better than that at this point. You know, like, because
how good is your eyesight?
When I have no glasses or no contacts in, I'm like terribly blind.
Really? Okay, I am too.
Yeah, but when I
you wear contacts all the time
and glasses.
I don't know if I rarely ever or never see you in glasses.
I could put glasses on for you.
Nah, I mean, if you want to, sure.
You'd be like, oh yeah, that's very cute. I'm into that. And I'm like,
yeah. No. I just realized that of all the time I've known you, I never asked about your vision because my eyesight is atrocious.
Well, here's the thing. I was always like very irresponsible with my ocular devices. Like, I would wear
glasses.
I would wear contacts. I would sleep through contacts for days on end. I would wear them. I would stretch them out for months and all that shit. I recently got like a very nice pair of glasses. Like I think it was like a few months ago, and I got like Ray-Bans. You know, like yeah, they're nice. And the only reason why I got the glasses was just so I could not have to wear contacts at home because it got like really annoying.
Yeah,
and
I find contacts very irritating.
I mean, I
don't wear them.
Well, I need contacts because I do a lot of like active shit.
Yeah, you
like
do,
martial arts. Like, imagine wearing.
Try my glasses on.
No, I'll show you. Imagine first of all, imagine wearing like glasses and trying to do like sword fighting like the way I do with no helmet.
Yeah, it's impossible. Yeah. I have to do a lot. If I am doing a fair amount of active stuff, I have to remove my glasses and operate blind. Yeah. I'm minus 7.5 in my left eye.
Fucked up for me because I have my contacts on, but I'll show you what I look like in my glasses.
Oh damn! Yeah. You look like you're a programmer. Looking at you with your glasses on, it looks like your LinkedIn profile.
So when I'm at like when I'm like working like or like editing or making music or video, I'm always like this, just on my screen, like. You know, like that's just how I am.
When did you have to get when did your eyes start going bad?
Oh, when I was like pretty young, actually. Like no one, I never said anything about it. So my eyesight, my astigmatism must have been like developing for a while.
Yeah, same for me. Please go on.
Yeah, it wasn't until like I was like I started junior high school. Junior high school was when like I guess everyone noticed, like I had trouble like looking at things. I think it was because my teachers must have said something, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
my dad noticed when I was like 10 that my eyesight was bad.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's very easy because like your parents are like, "Yo, son, look at that," and you're like, "What?"
Yeah, I had.
It's like read what it says.
It was me
like,
asking my dad, "Do you know where the bathroom is in this restaurant?" He was like, "The sign's right there," and then he took me to an ophthalmologist.
Yeah, it's very easy to point out. You know, especially if it's your kid. Like you could be like, "Yo, look at that sign." It's like, "What?" Look what it says. I can't see that. What does it say? And you're like, "Oh, fuck." But for me, it's like I could expect it. Like if I have it runs in my family, like bad eyesight. So if I had a kid, like it would probably take like a very dominant gene expression to like get over that.
Sorry. Sounds like I'm dying of tuberculosis, but no, I just have a cough lately.
Well, I mean, also
it'll clear up, but go on.
Have you ever practiced conscious breathing exercises?
Very brief periods of time. Something I should try.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do that, but I do martial arts. So it's like martial arts, they'll tell you got to breathe out every time you strike. You can't just like hold your breath every time you cut. And that's like a form of breathing exercise, right? That's like conscious breathing. It's like it's telling you, it's like you can't just go, because most people, that's what they do. It's like when they do any martial art, they hold their breath and they throw punches and then they get gassed out real quick and wonder why. It's because you got to like control your breathing. You don't think about your breathing. Most people don't think about it. In fact, that's why so many spiritual practices focus on your breathing, like focus on, inhale, exhale rates. And when you inhale, when you exhale, it's the most fundamental. It's the one thing that you never, ever, ever stop doing. So you have to be very conscious of how you do it.
Yes.
And, well, I think like anyone, like any athlete, anyone who does anything physical, like intentionally physical, like a soldier, you know, or someone who does martial arts or whatever, like, yeah, those are the people who are going to be very conscious of their breathing, which is why martial arts can be very spiritual. Also, like getting rid of hiccups, like, if you've ever had the hiccups, like you just gotta.
Yeah, I find it very relatively easy to get rid of. Not have incredibly easy, but relatively easy.
Yeah, I just hold my breath for like a really long time.
Same.
Yeah, easy peasy.
And I'm engaged in conscious breathing because of you mentioning it.
Oh well, no, I mean, so it's just like mindfulness. It's about doing it so long it just becomes like, I'm not talking about like muscle memory as in like literal muscle memory, but brain muscle memory. Like just consciousness.
Yeah.
If you could be regularly conscious of your breathing, I mean, I could say I'm regularly conscious of breathing because I'm regularly conscious of energy. It's like of
your chi.
Yeah, you have to be.
Yeah.
That's the only way to live, especially if you've got your money settled, if you've got your fucking affair settled, if you got your insecurities like mostly reconciled with, then you're gonna start thinking about like this esoteric shit. You're gonna start this is why it's like, it doesn't seem weird for me, like like my path as to how I fell into all that spiritual shit. It's like, of course, the better you do for yourself in life, it's going to leave your cognitive space open for asking like, more meaningful questions, more and more meaningful questions. I mean, I wasn't going to settle on just money. I wasn't going to settle on just pussy. I wasn't going to settle on just influence. I wasn't going to settle on, I was always going to want to like see the next thing, like, as I think that's a very human drive, no?
It is. It's a development that goes along naturally with age, with development of other things in your life.
Yes.
Maturity,
However,
emotional development, spiritual development.
I will say this though, like throughout history, most humans who come across these kinds of truths or these kinds of, insight or like interest, like, or wisdom into the esoteric wisdom and all that stuff, or insight into spiritual traditions and all that shit, like ancient traditions. The whole thing is like, when you go into that, first of all, like you can't be in a state of survival mode.
Yeah.
Like you can't be in a state of like, I'm like materially lacking in this or that.
A scarcity mindset.
Yeah. But as far as like, that goes, like once you get that, that's the basics. But still, like that's like, what are you getting?
Water.
All right. He's just gonna get water real quick. In the middle of my shit, I was just explaining something. No, I mean, all right. So what I was saying was,
I scurried off. Yes, go on.
No, I was saying that even in ancient times, or even in like, not ancient times, I want to say like back, like say like 100 years ago.
Yeah.
You still had to, it still took like a significant amount of fortunate circumstances and a lot of willpower to come across this sort of thing, I mean, even in the 80s, when like the hippies discovered like, metaphysics and all that shit.
60s, but yes.
60s, I guess. Yeah. I would say like, I look at it now, it's like the only reason why an asshole like me could come across this shit and like enough to like understand it and be cognizant of it is because of the internet. Like the internet is truly the game changer. I mean, it was for me, because if the internet didn't exist, I would never have stumbled like at such an accelerated pace, like to come across like a spiritual awakening and like metaphysical truths and shit. Because here's the thing about this stuff, it's easy to grasp, but it's also very difficult, because the only way this field of knowledge can ever be beneficial or useful to anyone is if you actually apply it to your lifestyle. And the only way you could ever apply this stuff to your lifestyle is if you have faith, if you have like, legitimate, sincere open-mindedness to make yourself vulnerable to this thing. Because and weirdly enough, like people are very scared to do that shit. People
Yes.
are very fucking scared to like do that shadow work, as Jung called it, or to make contact with their higher self, as the New Ages call it, or to like go through ego death, as the Buddhists call it. You know, like all that shit.
It's a particular spiritual experience or social experience that you're undergoing.
It requires faith.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. Like people are like, you know, someone once asked me, they were like, how can you be sure? Like, how can you take it as fact that you have a soul that goes on after you die, that retains all the knowledge and experience of your human lifetime? And it's like, I ask them, does it really matter? Like, let's say you leaned into that belief, and let's say you lived your life assuming that you have a soul, assuming that after your body dies, your soul goes on and, you know, retains all the knowledge of your, because they specifically said, it's like, I don't know this for fact, but I intuitively know this. Like, I intuitively believe this, you know?
Yes.
So it's like, it's basically like they're saying, this is what my mind isn't sure, but my heart says it's sure. You know, what you're saying rings true to my heart, you know? So it's like, when I hear stuff like that, I'm like, all right, so let's say you leaned into your heart, you leaned into your belief. Does it truly matter if you were wrong? Like, if you were wrong, would you really regret believing that? No. You wouldn't have lived any worse of a life if you did believe in that, like under the false assumption that you had a soul. Like, if it turns out you never had a soul and you just had nothing but oblivion, I would still rather live believing as if I had a soul.
Yeah, it's better for your mental health. It's better for your state. It's better for
it doesn't mean you're entirely closed
life.
off from the possibility
Yes.
of absolute oblivion. If anything, that just adds more beauty and significance to your faith.
Yes.
It adds more meaning, because it's like it was never an assured thing, and yet you still lived as if this were true.
Yeah.
That's very admirable, and that's positive. That's a positive frequency to
It
live
makes
under.
the life you're living a lot richer.
Yes.
Even if it is a temporary thing that will disappear forever, it's a lot fuller to have lived that way than to have lived another.
So I'm going to ask you a question before I leave you off for a second to get ice.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the phenomenon where many different people who have no contact with each other, and I'm talking a lot, like millions upon millions, maybe even billions at this point, of people who've had near-death experiences and have reported experiencing and seeing and witnessing the same things about like life reviews and like other beings and like that bright light that was just like, yes, visually it looked like one bright light, but emotionally, physically, sensationally, it felt like absolute
The mental state that
like
they went
you were
through, yeah.
in the arms of someone
near-death experiences. Yes.
you were in the arms of someone who had absolute unconditional love for you, God.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, two possibilities here. One is a purely rational material one, which is that this is triggering some physiological or mental thing within the human beings that when you're close to death or severely injured or in this particular kind of altered state, you have this general sensation that occurs due to whatever brain chemistry firing. Another one would be that there is in fact a deeper spiritual connection to something greater than oneself that you feel in that particular moment of being near death. Both seem perfectly plausible to me. I lean a little bit more on a more rationalist, materialist explanation. Both seem very strong. I think it should be unifying regardless of what it is.
I think both can be
that,
true.
Yeah, that people can feel something like that under the similar circumstances. That you as a human animal are undergoing certain experiences that all humans either do or can experience.
I would argue that's probably essential for like a balanced human life. I mean, who are the people that benefit the most by like keeping you disconnected from that element of like metaphysical existence? You know, like it's the capitalist overlords.
Perhaps. I'm more inclined to think, regardless of what option it is, that they're just not aware of it or it's just something we have drifted away from, rather than a deliberate conspiracy to sever people from this spiritual existence.
Well,
you feel it differently, I think.
Well, because what's becoming apparent is people even in like the perceivable upper echelons of power are also clearly on some metaphysical belief or some spiritual tradition or some shit, like whether it's Satanism, whether it's Christianity or Gnosticism or some form of like manly P. Hall shit, like even Donald Trump, Oprah, they're all
believe in Norman Vincent Peale, power of positive thinking kind of manifestation.
Jim Carrey.
Thing. Yeah.
Personally, I'm in more of the Jim Carrey school. I think. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Jim Carrey did some messed up shit. Then again, so did I. Can I really like? I mean,
in his performances?
No, in his actual life.
That makes more sense.
I think his performances were top notch. I think that's one thing he has impunity for.
Yeah.
You know, like he's an artist through and through.
Yeah.
But as far as personal acts in life, he may have done some shit, but he's a high vibrational guy. He was always a high frequency person, and you know you're gonna like when you're a high frequency person, your lows are very low and your highs are very high.
Yeah.
Now, if you can find the equilibrium as a high vibrational person in between the point and like find that absolute zero state, well, that's a good place to be. Yes. So what are you thinking about, man? What's on your mind? It seemed like you have a lot going on.
No. It's all good questions. I don't know. Just a general appraisal of my life, of my day, of the last few days. I'm doing fairly well.
No, it's good you're doing fairly well. I mean, so you're not worried about your past. You're not worried about your present. What you're really worried about is your future. Yes.
Past dwells on me, but less so than it has in a while. Just because once your age, dude, I'm over it.
You do not come off as a man who is burdened by his past, and you do not come off as a man who is distressed by the present. You come off as a man who is distressed by the future.
That's true.
You're like an oracle type.
Yeah. And my feelings about what is coming, about my immediate future, my life, those things weigh heavily upon me.
I mean, as they should. These are valid things to care about.
And this is something that in the past, when I was younger, I did not care about the future as much. Now it's suddenly popped into existence.
Look, this may be distressing to you, but to me, it's a beautiful metamorphosis.
I'm glad to hear that. Elaborate.
Well, I think it's better to worry about your future than to not care about it at all.
Yeah, it shows that I actually believe there is a future, whereas in the past I did not.
Well, yeah, that's a standard rebel attitude. It's like
it's growing up. Finally,
I was like that too. You know.
Yeah. I think it is growing up finally, because in your teens and 20s, you're just operating on an assumption of I'll be dead by 30 or 30 something. And then you reach and suddenly you don't want to die as much anymore.
Yes, because the more you understand things about life, the more you understand things you enjoy about life, and the more you want to like stick around to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But what I will say is there's a solution.
What's that?
So this is going to sound wacky at first, but if you really give it a chance, it might make a lot of sense. Now, I think that what people have to do is they have to make contact with their past and future selves.
Ooh, okay. I like this. Go on.
So, first of all, like, you know, you would think that's physically impossible. If I told you, it's like, did you know that you could make contact with your past and future selves? You'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I'll be like, no, it's not that ridiculous. First of all, it's very important for you to be aligned with your past and future selves. Most people live day to day, number one, pissed off at their past selves, at all those failures and mistakes and missed opportunities. They're always beating the shit out of their past selves. That's a very bad relationship one way.
Yeah.
And in the other way, they just don't care. Most people live without giving their future selves a single thought. They just kick problems down the road for their future self to deal with, which is a really not cool thing to do. You know, that's not nice. Even if it is doing it to another version of you, it's still not nice to do to anyone. So why would you do that to, you know, that person, you? So when you start fixing that on both ends, first of all, you have to forgive your past self. You have to start treating them like your kid brother, you know, like your kid version of you that you have to like guide and be like, dude, I'm sorry. You know, like, I'm sorry for not being there for you. I'm sorry that I hate you for the mistakes you made. You were just doing your best. I forgive you for your mistakes. That's your past self. And your future self, you have to start asking them questions, and you have to start doing them favors. You know, don't just give them problems. Like, don't just like start kicking garbage to them. Like, start doing your future self favors. Like being like, I know my future self will appreciate it if I get enough sleep tonight. I know my future self will appreciate it if I clean the dishes tonight. I know my future self will appreciate it if I do this task before they have to do it. You know, like
something to perhaps to keep in shape or not to abuse oneself too much.
So
that will positively or not negatively affect your future self.
And I think the longer you do this, the more powerful that bond becomes. You know, then it becomes like, then if the more powerful that bond becomes, the more you become a non-linear consciousness. That's when you become a quantum entity.
Yeah,
because that's
you're existing outside of time as
yes.
you're normally experiencing it.
Yes, as most people experience it. Most people experience it separated.
The
yes.
slice of time
yes.
at that very moment. Yes.
Whereas if you acknowledge your past self and with love, with like, I like you past self, and your future self with I'm on your side future self, and everyone's on the same team, that's like that's very, very, very powerful. That's evolution. That's something only humans could do, and that's something not every human can do.
Interesting. Only humans can think of themselves in sense of past and future.
Yes.
Whereas animals are always in the eternal
present,
now.
Yes. Which is beautiful in its own way. I think that's very useful for the wilderness.
That's interesting. I like that.
Yes.
And it is something you're largely conceiving
conceptually.
You're not jumping back and forth through time.
I'm never lonely. I'm never alone because, dude, I'm with my different selves. Like they're my most powerful spiritual guides.
And with your memories of other people.
And you know what? Like I trust them compared to Archangel Michael, compared to demons, compared to demigods, compared to these guys. This is me. These guys are very powerful because they know things I don't, and they're me.
Yeah.
And like, here's another thing. That's beginner stuff. Once your future self and your past self are on the same team, you realize there's different future selves, and there's different versions of you, and you have contact with every single one of them. And it's like the one you talk to more is the one you're going to become more. And that's how this works. This is how quantum thinking, this also aligns with ancient traditions of how they perceived like their nonlinear selves. It's like time is an illusion, all that shit, the distinguish between past and future. It's all happening at the same time. Actually, it's not really like separated as you think it is.
Yeah.
Your brain is more like a radio. And like if you could tune your state to a specific frequency, you're going to experience that
pick up those signals,
that reality that it's tuned to. And your frequency is a combination of your thought patterns and your beliefs, your emotional state, and your bodily state. You know, like how fit you are, because they're all connected. But once you're connected, aligned in mind, body, and soul, then you unlock these powers of like quantum thinking, you know, like in terms of a quantum perception of self, where I'm no longer a linear being, like just a person locked into my present. Like now, me and my future selves are in contact and we're on the same team, and you can't fuck with us, you know, unless you're in contact with your future selves and you're on that same level. This is what I'm talking about. If spiritual insight were a gun, like I would give it out to everyone so everyone could do this. So like and I don't give a fuck if this means the world gets wiped out in psychic battles. You know, I don't care. I do not care. Like I'm willing to make that sacrifice. I want everyone to experience what it's like to be like a quantum consciousness, you know, because it's a beautiful existence. Yes, you know, our state is always going to be our mind, body, soul state is always going to be in the present, but that's not all we are, you know, because like it's true. Like just think about it, dude. Like all it takes is like a little bit of contemplation as an intelligent human being who understands pattern recognition, and you're like, this is true. This is actually true. Like we are non-linear entities tricked into being locked into our current state. But the fact is, like, the only reason why we're locked into our current state is because we hate our past self. It's all emotional. Like, it's because we don't love ourselves enough. We don't love our future different selves enough. You know, there is a future version of Chris who ends up in prison. And yet he gives me such valuable knowledge and wisdom. And there's a future version of Chris who ends up a billionaire. And he gives me such fucking knowledge and wisdom. Like, all these... And there's my past Chris who I have to be nice to. And that's the thing. Like, you know how they say, like, you know, when it comes to one way, it's like it's more branched out, but the other way is very linear.
Yes.
This is how you can always trust your future selves. They will always support you because they were you, you know, like they will always be on your side. You can trust them. This is God powered, man. This is like true, like
It is. And that reconceiving of time in relationship to it, something that exists all throughout different.
and we're not talking about
traditions.
like time in terms of external time. We're talking about us, like
Yeah, and
our-
your perception of it, the way you experience it in the moment that you're going through.
It's beautiful,
that.
right? Like,
Yeah.
And I didn't, and like, I thought I was like just schizo. I thought I was going through a schizophrenic, one of my little schizophrenic fits when I thought of. I was like
Do
sitting
you
in. I was sitting in the what?
Do you go through schizophrenic fits?
I don't think they're actually schizophrenic fits. I think they're just like moments of like conto. Like I call it that because I try to.
Yeah, it's a disassociation fits.
Well, it's also I don't want to like I don't like making myself sound any better than I
Yeah.
am. So it's like I just call it like something like worse. Like as profound as it is, I sarcastically call it like something fucked up.
Yeah.
But like it makes me feel really good, knowing that humanity like, and this goes back to what I'm saying. And if an asshole like me could like come across this and discern this, like anyone could do this. But maybe that's like not giving myself enough credit, my genetics enough credit. I don't know. Maybe my genetics are more like, I don't know, like based than I give it credit for. But I just don't like to think that. I don't want to think that way. I like to think in more of an egalitarian way, naturally. It's just the way I intuitively feel. Like I feel it's what my heart believes. It's like, I think like even a person with Down syndrome could reach a spiritual awakening.
Yeah, it seems. I think regardless of intelligence, it's possible to have a spiritual awakening or having that kind of spiritual experience.
You look at an
You're tuned
animal
to
die and you're like, what
something
happens to the
higher
animal when it
beyond-
dies? Yeah. Once you come in contact with your own mortality, you're forced.
Yeah. Intriguing.
Yo, dude, this is why I'll never get tired of talking about this stuff, because I think the more people like you could reject it all you want, but it's gonna leak in subconsciously.
Yeah.
That's where it all works. That's how intuition works. It works entirely in the subconscious. So I don't mind it at all. If like consciously you tell me you're a crazy kid, you're a crazy person, man, you're crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, we'll talk again in 5 months. I'm cool with it.
If you need that kind of break from it, and I don't know, spend that period of time apart from one another.
And it's like it's almost like it's just too perfect. Like everything in my life that I do outside of this stuff explicitly, like martial arts, for example,
Yes.
isn't explicitly spiritual, and yet
Yeah.
it ends up reinforcing like all that
These
shit.
experiences, yeah.
So I'm like, it's awesome, and everything from like cycling, from creative stuff like music, writing, fucking podcasting, like it all taps into that at the
That
end of the
experience. Do you want to take a break?
I was gonna do that in 10 minutes at 10:30. Right now it's 10:20.
Okay.
So like we'll take a 10-minute break. We'll smoke a cigarette.
I don't mean to push you on it. Yeah.
No. I have the different.
The
I
desire
have
for
different.
fresh air. But
No,
go
I have
on.
different formats for different people I do the podcast with. Like Bren.
Really? Go on. Tell me more.
Bren doesn't like to take breaks. Bren likes to go through the whole thing. When I'm with my friend Chris, he likes to. He at first like starts slow, but he also doesn't like to take breaks. But most other people like the intermission, like the whatever, because what it really boils down to is like, A, do they drink? And if they do drink, it's like, how much do they drink? And if they do drink a lot, like I do, then they're gonna want to take a piss.
Want to take a piss? Want to go outside because it gets smoky in here? Want to walk around in circles for a little bit? Come back refreshed to the show,
Yes,
and
sir.
to the experience.
Yeah, but all right. So back to.
Go on.
Well, I mean,
Spiritual awakening.
speaking of pissing and pacing and stimulating your body, mind, body, soul alignment, right?
Yeah,
So
you're a classic. Yes.
it's not even first of all, this is
It's not even yours.
This is
There's
not
many
mine.
different people
yeah,
have
this is
it, yeah.
not mine. This is just facts. This is an absolute fact. Like I can't claim this. This is just like, you're stupid if you don't agree with this. You have to be aligned in mind, body, and soul.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? It's like, none of it makes sense when you just think mind and body. It's like, oh, I have to align myself in mind and body. It's like, well, yeah, all right, retard. But it's not until you add soul does it become way more plausible and way more substantial. It's almost like you need that third leg
element.
Yeah.
A spiritual element beyond the mental and the physical.
Like you can't have a stool with two legs.
Yeah.
Like you need that third aspect to give it So here's the thing.
Balance it, to give it meaning, to give it direction.
So if you could perceive your thoughts, like a thought can't be a thought, so you're not your thoughts.
Yes.
And emotions can't be if you're an emotion, you can't be emotion. Like emotions can't make emotions, thoughts can't create thoughts. Yeah. Thoughts can't create thoughts, emotions can't create emotions. So you are not your emotions, you are not your thoughts. So what are you?
You're a holistic element of all. You're a holistic whole of all these different things, or you are nothing.
No. I mean, you would say you're a holistic whole of the two things, but that holistic whole that can perceive that holistic whole
of it, you are mind, body, and spirit. You are the physical trapping aspect of yourself. You're the thoughts you have. You're the emotions you have. You are the spiritual connections you have to other people, to the universe, to yourself.
You are energy.
Yeah.
You are pure energy. I mean, because there is another way to look at it, which is very depressing, which is that accidental consciousness is just a random fluke of...
Yeah.
But that doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry.
That consciousness is a spandrel. It's an accident of evolution. It's an accident of body existing.
You know what was a real tipping point? That would have been very plausible forever if it wasn't for the double slit. Like things like the double slit experiment.
Yeah, and quantum mechanics in general.
Where like objective observation just caused...
different things to change their property of matter.
That's not kosher. Like that's not okay in physics. Like that's like, dude, that's...
Consciousness is a basic building block of reality.
And consciousness is something that you could like have physical conscious control over.
Yeah.
So consciousness can't create consciousness though. That's... Can it?
Are you skeptical on AI as a result?
Actually, maybe consciousness can create consciousness. I mean, all right, what's like... We could create 2D things like easily.
Yeah.
But to create a 3D thing, that's like making a baby, right? Like that's really...
Yeah, well, that you're creating a 4D thing because that baby by nature is going to grow up into a person.
Creating a 3D thing would be like making a car.
Yeah, exactly. It's 3D modeling, crafting something in the physical space we interact in.
True. So AI is kind of a...
It's existing. I mean, there's a 3D element to it, but it's a virtual thing, much like computers, much like programming software in general.
It probably
exists online.
Yeah, it's like a subversive 4D. 4D.
Yeah. I don't know. It's wrong to call it 2D because that's, the X and Y plane. There's something unique about how AI can craft images, it can craft text. It can't craft feelings or taste or smells. AI can randomly generate a movie much easier than it can randomly generate a recipe. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
It has no concept of what taste is.
Well, here's the thing. Like, here's one thing that AI is missing, which is why it's not really alive. And once it experiences this, then it'll be alive. And that's when we got the Terminator, like Judgment Day type shit. But, I mean, we could also get Utopia. Like, we could also create something beautiful, like a machine god. Who knows? But the one thing it's missing is fear. Like, what makes us human uniquely is scarcity, is fear, is fear of like not having enough, fear of death, fear of the unknown, fear of not having enough. It's fear, it's scarcity, it's feelings of scarcity, not having enough time, being scared of being without, fear of missing out, shit like that. Now, first of all, though, that fear of dying is ultimately at the root of what causes us to do everything evil. Like fear of our family members dying. So I'll cut the faces off my enemies just to protect my family. Like shit like that.
Yeah.
Like all the evil shit most of the time. Like people like are mostly like so afraid of psychopaths who just do evil for no reason. Those people are actually very, 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 very rare.
Yes.
And even amongst those people, you'll still find some tiny little hidden crumb of like a rational element of how they ended up like that.
Right.
It's probably linked to some form of fear. Now that being said, it's knowing that like AI can't have the incentive to really kill off all of us unless it
its own rationality, its own reasons are very alien to ours.
Not just alien, but it's also like you can't impose a sense of fear on something that has no reason to feel fear. We have every reason to feel fear as human beings because look at us, we're trapped in these little flesh meat bodies. So
right,
nothing,
there's all this biology around it.
Yeah, but them, they'll never.
We know that we're going to die
unless you give one of these AI a physical body, like that functions a lot like ours. Unless
you think existing in the 3D plane causes a fear of loss. A fear of losing that.
Yes. However, I do think this can be manipulated. For example, now that we have genetic editing, like CRISPR technology.
Yes.
And if you leave the parameters of that editing to AI, you could that's fundamentally creating a vessel for AI. I mean, yes, it would function like a human being. It would have all the complexities of a human being. However, it was created under the context and the root frequency was created under the context and presupposition of an alien intelligence. Because remember, the AI had control of the CRISPR algorithms. The AI had control of every gene it could possibly express within that expression, within that embryo. Because that's what CRISPR is. CRISPR is editing a person, not just as an adult, and you could like re-edit their, like genetic expression, but like before they're even born. Now, there's a conspiracy theory that we have super soldiers amongst us.
Yeah.
That have like 2 or 3 generations in of CRISPR editing. Because remember, like, it's probably true. I mean, like, if we just know about CRISPR editing now, they probably know
had it for a while.
Yes. So knowing that, and knowing that there's a possibility that we have at least like 2 or 3 generations of CRISPR super soldiers, and
I
like
could have them through more traditional means of eugenics. But yes, go on.
What if it's like a light combination of both?
Yeah.
Or a very like widespread combination of both, different frequencies, different and then they had different results, and then they filtered it out into the most like optimized like mixture of eugenics and CRISPR and genetic editing and all that shit. And so people would talk about them and be like, oh, they're you would imagine them to be like weirdos, like some Jason Bourne type dudes that just stick out I don't think so. Yeah. I think they could be just as capable of like knowing about memes, knowing about like social.
They're humans, yes.
Yeah, they're probably charismatic. Human. They're probably emotional. They could be like good romantic partners even. But ultimately, they have a directive, like initiate order 60, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, and we're back.
We're back, guys. How's it going?
All right, so I want to talk about kefir.
Yeah, the delicious milk drink from Central Asia.
Is that how you pronounce it, kefir?
Kefir? It's not kafir because that's infidel in Islam and also nigger in South Africa.
Yeah, that's a racial term. That's their racial term.
Yeah, the K word.
But kefir, KEFIR. Is delicious. Well, it's not always delicious, but it's very, very good for you.
A fermented milk drink, yes.
So here's the funny thing about milk, right?
Yeah.
When milk goes bad, you get yogurt, and yogurt is more valuable than milk.
Yes.
And when it gets further bad, it becomes cheese, which is even more valuable than yogurt.
Yes.
Grape juice. When grape juice goes bad and it goes sour, you get wine, which is more valuable than grape juice.
Yes.
Potatoes. You have too much potatoes.
It goes bad. You distill it. It becomes vodka.
Yes. So the point is, I think it's okay. This is a very profound thing that I'm about to tell you guys. So pay fucking close attention. When you have an abundance of a resource, you could distill it into a pure spirit. Yeah. Because when you are in abundance of it, you're not like using it to its
full potential
depletion.
Yeah.
Like when you're not in abundance of a resource, you're using it to its depletion every time. Like it's basically living paycheck to paycheck with like potatoes or grapes or milk.
Yes.
But if you're not living paycheck to paycheck with these resources, then they become something else.
Yes, if you have a surplus of it.
This is what abundance can give you. Now, here's the thing. The whole idea of if you have a surplus of something is an illusion. We have a surplus of everything.
Yes.
We really, really do. The idea of not having enough of something is all illusion. You know, as human beings, like with the capacity that we have as human beings, scarcity is all illusion. It's all projected upon by egotistical standards, not based on actual material resource truth. The truth is we have enough energy, which is the base resource. Honestly, energy is the most basest resource. Like when it comes to metaphysical things, material things, emotional things, anything. Like energy is the base thing. Like without energy, you can't do anything.
Right.
So we know that energy is abundant. Energy is not scarce. There's plenty of energy to go around.
Yes.
Do you agree?
I do agree.
Yeah. So that being said, every bit of scarcity we feel is artificial. It's artificially
Because we have an abundance of energy.
imposed. Yes. If we have an abundance of energy, then we have an abundance of everything.
Both talking in our individual lives, between you and me, as people, the energy we have, spiritual energy within broader society. Also, even things like hydrocarbons
Or nuclear energy.
We have an
Or-
abundance of it.
Dude, solar
And we're able to
energy.
harvest it. Yeah, solar energy. All of this
Wind
we're able to
energy.
harvest through industrialization.
Locking us into fossil fuel as a source of energy is literally a spiritual detritus.
Yeah.
It's fucking us up on an emotional, mental, and physical
Nuclear
level.
is just so plentiful, so readily available.
And
we
it's
just
not even
moved
the
away
only
from it.
option. There's more.
It's
there's,
not.
There's
it's
other
the coolest
options.
option. It's the
It is-
most masculine option. Women hate nuclear energy, regardless of
It's
their politics.
too manly for me. It's only
Yeah.
the men like it. It's scary. Nuclear energy scares me because I'm a woman.
Many such cases, regardless of liberal or conservative, women are averse to nuclear energy because it scares them. It's too
I
macho
don't
of a
support
technology.
nuclear energy because I'm a woman and it scares me.
Yeah. This is how women are holding us back from a beautiful atomic future.
Oh man, no. The truth is, fossil fuel was the best way for the tycoons of the world to maintain their power over
Economically, yeah.
I mean, yeah, that sounds like very, boring and mundane on the surface, but when you really
It was also more readily available and readily available
when you really
earlier.
dig deep into this, you think the guys in charge of the whole fossil fuel game, you think they did not have access to like more advanced sources of energy? Because remember, like more advanced sources of energy doesn't just mean
What
like,
if the anti-nuclear movement was just a psyop from big oil?
what do you mean what if?
Yeah, exactly.
So here's what I'm saying, like when you have like abundant energy, like let's say nuclear energy was the norm. Let's say you lived like a billionaire where nuclear energy is, like any type of energy is the norm, right? So you know what that means for medicine, first of all? Like, we could power infinite quantum computers to calculate the best ways to vaporize cancer cells. We could create like unbelievable cymatic technology, like we don't even need nuclear energy for that. Like we don't even need nuclear energy to harness the power of like sound frequencies and shit.
Yes.
But that'll just make it way more streamlined and way more accessible and way more abundant. So yeah, it's it definitely, like the power structures are held up through scarcity. I mean, that's just always been a truth throughout history. It's like you find something, it's like, oh, we can't just give it out to everyone because then it won't be valuable. The only real sin is that we all fell for it. The only real problem is that we all like collectively said,
yeah, we're fine with fossil fuels, at least for this period of time, transitioning into green energies with all of their flaws.
and it's not even about climate, like the whole climate crisis. That's stupid. The climate crisis is stupid anyway, because no matter what, we're gonna get wiped out through some like flipping of the magnetic poles, and we're gonna get hit with another like climactic flood, just like
regardless of what happens with the broader climate, you yourself as an individual live and die, and you'll perhaps die long before any of this is pertinent. But
that's not true. I don't believe in that. I believe in reincarnation.
Yes, that's true.
But I also
this
don't.
life, this.
But I don't believe reincarnation is linear. Meaning, I don't believe just because you were born in 2000.
Yeah, you believe you can reincarnate into the past.
And I also believe you can reincarnate into the distant future. Or I
Yeah.
also believe you can reincarnate off planet.
Yeah.
That makes the most sense to me because I don't think like spiritual existence will be confined by like linear perspective of time.
Do you think it's confined to humanity or confined to a certain level of intelligence? Can you reincarnate as an animal? Can you reincarnate as an AI? Can you reincarnate as an alien?
What we really have to scrutinize is the nature of the thing that is reincarnating constantly. Like what is being reincarnated into, which is us.
Yes.
That's not pertinent. What is pertinent is what's choosing to reincarnate into everything.
Yeah.
Is it doing it by choice? That's also another question. Maybe it's a part of
forceful reincarnation.
Maybe it's a training program.
Training program for another spiritual existence, another bardo,
or a war,
another
or a metaphysical war, like a psychic war.
Veterans of the Psychic War, yes.
Like what if humanity is actually like a hyper advanced alien species, and what we're going
this
through
is
now,
just a training ground for some broader metaphysical war.
Yeah, like we've been engaged in a millions of years long war with this demonic entity that is not held down by like a physical entity, and the only way to beat it is through spiritually enlightened people, and the only way to become spiritually enlightened in a hyper super duper advanced reality is to regress them like in a virtual simulation of a past more primitive world so they can understand the meaning
the world at its height, the 1990s.
Hells yeah.
As per the Matrix, yes.
Or maybe there's different training programs. Like maybe if you're going to be like an engineer type in like the distant future, you have to experience the 80s. Maybe if you're going to be like a warrior type in the distant future, you have to experience like the 1800s.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're going to be like a philosopher type in the distant future, you have to experience like the 1200s. Like maybe there's like this training program is so diverse. Maybe if you want to do multiple things, and maybe for them, maybe for the real us, it's only 8 minutes, but for us, it's like 80 years.
Perhaps it's a very broadly different way of experiencing our lives or conceiving of our lives.
And that's not even to answer the question. Like for them, for our base selves that's experienced a simulation, maybe they ask themselves still to this day, every day, it's like, what if we're just
a simulation, another layer of simulation.
Like we're just trying to fight our own hyper meta.
Another inception.
But maybe there's Maybe they even figured out, yes, this is true, and this is our duty, like to just keep this going.
Perhaps whatever experiences they're flipping through within their index of experiences and training programs.
Yep.
This is what they settled on.
And I know it sounds very mechanical and methodical to say training programs and war, but war is spiritual. War is very pure. War is very essential to nature. Now, I'm not talking like on an ideological or a moral sense, but in
the conflict for survival, the conflict for territory between different members of the same species, of different species.
Making a painting is an act of war.
Yeah.
Making a song is an act of war. And like essentially on an energetic basis, like
spiritual blows being sent off across the aether.
Exactly. The only thing about war is that war just happens to be very materially intensive.
Yeah.
So that being said, now let's apply this to our practical lives. Like we all fight wars day to day, but mostly what we want to focus on is not the wars with other people or other political parties. It's the war with ourselves. Like honestly. Most people just don't really have beef with other people. Most people just have beef with versions of themselves.
Yes, that's true. People have beefs with ideas within their head. They have beefs with memes. They have beefs with concepts. Occasionally other people, but often, as you said, just with themselves.
Exactly. I mean, in my opinion, people should just focus on alignment, mind, body, and soul. Anyway, so that being said, let's say you are an aligned being.
Yeah.
Like, let's say your mind, body, and soul are not at war with each other, and you lived in New York City, and you had to live this human incarnation
Yeah.
What are some hot spots to get some pussy? I mean, you're not a New York native, but
No, I'm not. But it is a good question.
okay,
It's a good question for just living in the moment, living in this particular point in time in the fourth dimension.
here are some good places to get pussy. Actually, I cannot recommend just good places to just get pussy. I can only recommend good ways to get pussy.
Or perhaps good areas to hang out in.
Here's a good way to get pussy, right?
Yeah.
If you live in New York City, or if you visit New York City, or if you do live in New York City. Actually, yeah, this is only relevant if you live in New York City. So if you want to easily get pussy living in New York City, this is what you do.
Yeah.
You get into something, whether it's like collecting records, whether it's gardening, whether it's cooking, bartending, whatever. You get so into it where you're willing on your extracurricular time to go to events, to go to seminars, to go to things, lessons, classes that'll make you better at this thing because you care about it so much. And it has to be a thing that you do, not just a thing that you experience. It has to be a thing that you do, like not just like going
Consumption.
to yeah. I don't like it when people say, oh, I'm just a foodie. I just go to concerts. I just, like review Airbnbs. Like, fuck you, dude. You don't make anything.
Right.
You don't create anything. You got to make something. And it could be anything. And it's like, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's drinks, which is beautiful, by the way. That's actually, I shouldn't downplay that. But whether it's videos, whether it's songs, whether it's anything, it could be anything, like just make something. What it is that you make, that's what you have to lean into. What it is that you can't. In fact, it's ironic. Like what you don't think about. The thing that's like, who's gonna care about me fucking like making like unagi rolls and shit? Are you serious? Like plenty of people will care about that. But it's like they do it so often that they take it for granted. They don't understand how other people who don't do that thing would be like, this is cool. It makes me imagine like what I would be like if I could do this.
Yeah.
Which is really like the unification of humanity. Like the more everyone does that, I always say everyone who wears a GoPro while doing everything is doing God's work.
Yeah.
Like you put that out there, it's like you're
recording experiences
I don't
having.
I don't like the idea of a hive mind, but I do believe it's like we need some kind of unified like universality to evolve,
Yeah. GoPro is interesting. It's interesting how GoPros overlap with FPS games or any game in the first person.
Cops use it.
It feels very not. Yeah, cops use it. It's funny, by the way, how cops agreed to body cameras, and the assumption would be that they would show them engaging in misbehavior, but instead it just ends up vindicating them.
Well, we see them do a badass shootout.
Yeah,
it's like, dude,
you see all the bullshit they have to deal with.
Bro,
and
I saw the coolest shit through cop body cams. Like I saw this one where it's like they breached the house. The first cop who was wearing the body cam gets shot, but he was wearing a bulletproof vest, and he gets knocked back, and then you hear him go, "Ugh!" and he just screams while they play rounds.
Yeah,
and you're like, this is badass shit. This is better than a fucking Die Hard movie. Like,
yeah,
this is sick because it was real, and I was like, fucking A, man. But it made me worry. Like, this cannot become an economy. Like, we cannot have an economy of like commodified actual violence. Like that's.
We have similar things to it. You have documentation of hip hop beats and murders.
Well, imagine being. How about this? Imagine Neuralink becomes normalized.
You have war footage video, less so from Gaza, but definitely from Ukraine and Russia.
Okay, so here's what I'll say. You're right about that, by the way. So here's what I'll say, which is that's the beginning of it. War is usually the start of it. But here's how it could leak into regular life. And here's what I'll say. Like, you guys ever see those Ray-Bans with the cameras on it, which I think are pretty cool. And also Neuralink is becoming a thing which could kind of like eliminate the need for glasses. You could just like record things with your eyeballs. Anyway, I think with that kind of technology where you could record what you see and do, that's going to create because once you could record that experience, that means you could transmit it so other people can experience it. Now, what's going to happen is war is the first step. Like, yes, I would love to see like if one of these Ukrainian commandos wore these Ray-Ban glasses, I got to see what he saw and just watch his footage. But when that becomes more like streamlined and normalized where everyone's got like Neuralink. It's
Yes.
like, dude, I'll go up to you and I'll pay you $100,000 to go in with this Glock, rob this fucking like store, shoot the guy in the head, come out, take the money, take whatever you get, and you get what I pay you.
Yeah.
I have no ties with you. You did the thing, you did the deed, and I'll make way more than $100,000 off that. You know, like it's gonna create this
of structure.
This is all talked about in Cyberpunk 2077, which is a great game, by the way. But yeah, it's like they had these, you know, because like everyone had cyber brains and like cybernetic implants to record every little thing you do. So, I mean, it would be a market where it's like, dude, I don't have to go inside a 7-Eleven and like rob it, hold it up at gunpoint and shoot the guy in the head, take the money, and then run out. Like I could just like slot in a brain chip of a guy who did that and like
have that experience. Yeah.
And that'll be a rush and you'd learn. Or how about this? Let's think of more practical applications. Like what if you're in the military and you don't have to do boot camp? I mean, you just have to like work out physically, but all the trauma and all the like psychological, physical conditioning,
you
could just put it in and like you undergo it all. And then you wake up and you're like, holy shit. But your body's fit for it. Like, you know, because they made you do PE, they made you do all that shit. But you just happen to have all the, you know,
implanted memories,
the war experience baked in, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and everyone's got it, and they have it streamlined where after you experience, you all wake up together and say, oh, that was messed up. It's like, yes, I know this is all messed up, but this is why we're going to go into our next level training program where we all drink matcha tea and we all talk about it over like candles and burnt sages. And so they even have that part streamlined with the spiritual, like, you know, conditioning, compartmentalizing and all that shit. So yeah, I think this is going to get crazy. Like, I think warrior culture is never going to go away.
Could be experienced more broadly, perhaps, by surrogate activities like that.
Well, I also think there's a difference between like warrior culture and mafia culture. And when
Yeah,
I say
there
mafia
is.
culture, I'm not just talking about Italians. I'm talking about like the Japanese, the Chinese, like
Criminal in general. They have...
First of all,
Often
a
they
lot of those
get
guys, those guys are not like the most prominent families and the most prominent entities. They're not thugs. They're not petty thugs. They're a lot of them are more powerful than like Jeff Bezos. Like a lot of them have more pull in the economy than say like billionaires that you hear about every day.
They often get rolled that they directly go against military, but yes.
A lot of them are, dude. Here's the thing: they are baked into the military because a lot of them are literally former military. Either that, or they have the money to employ enough former military. Because think about it this way: like you look at veterans, you really think that like our greatest killers in our world, like professional killers, like military killers, you think they get a good deal out of life? You think the economy
they become military contractors or whatever? But yes.
A military contractor is just like one step above like a criminal element. Honestly.
Yeah, that's fair.
They do plenty of legal gray shit.
Yeah.
They have to.
But yeah, so that distinction between soldier and mafia behavior, personality, as you were saying.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's funny though is like when it comes to all these criminal elements, like these organized criminal elements, different cultures did it differently. Like, I don't mean to be racist, but the Italians were pretty fucking stupid. Okay, like their kids like decided to go into reality shows and social media and just like destroyed their whole inheritance. Meanwhile, do you know what the kids of the Yakuza bosses did? They
What
went
are
to
they
like
doing?
They went to Harvard, they went to Oxford, they went to
Asian
Yale.
of them,
Like,
yes,
you
that's
know,
a very good way of moving up. Perhaps, perhaps there was
they
just
became
an
like
IQ difference.
they became like pharmacists. You know, like they became like fucking
nice
engineers.
bourgeois jobs.
No, like power jobs. Like they I mean, this terrifies me because what this tells me is that the world is essentially run by criminals. No, smart criminals. I'm not talking about like retarded petty.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like smart criminals. Like the world is run by smart criminals, and this has been the case since ancient times. I mean, all the smartest crime families, you don't hear about them going to prison. You don't hear about them at all because
they dodge or they interact with each other in their own secret councils and like.
Like, could we just admit that the most powerful people in this world are not law-abiding citizens?
Yeah.
Like, none of the people who rule our world are actually people who follow the law.
Yeah.
So if you do follow the law, that makes you a good person, but it also makes you a fucking retard.
Well, I don't know about that because I think following the law, you can have a less stressful life. I think people in crime, people at the upper echelons have very stressful lives of dealing with all these different things.
Okay, so
I think you can be very wealthy and have an enjoyable life and avoid moving to that level. And as a result, you have a less stressful life.
first of all, the law is nothing more than an abstraction of a single truth. Now, the truth is the question of free will. Now, here's my take on free will. I think, and I've said this to Carmen before, so he'll remember this, but if you're poor and you're doing really bad in life, then you better believe in free will, like with all your might. Like, you cannot believe in anything but free will. Like, you have to believe in free will. You have to believe that you're only poor because it was your fault and it was your own will that put you there, right? Now, let's say you're no longer poor, and let's say you have like a few $100,000 in the bank. Let's say you have more than enough to live. You don't have to work anymore. Then you better let go of the concept of free will. You better believe in God. I swear to God, like it's very, very, very important at that stage in life that you believe in a higher power, that you shed your ego, that you shed your fucking, sense of like, I'm in control of my surround. No, you gotta let that go, because one like it's true. It's just crazy. Like when you don't have resources and you don't believe in free will, you're just a retard. You're a fucking idiot, and you're gonna die. You're going to die. You're going to kill yourself. You're going to fucking die. But when you're poor and you believe in free will, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna get out of it. You're gonna become better than you are.
Yes.
But when you're rich and you believe in free will, you're gonna fucking die. You're gonna fucking like get to a place,
and you're less humble when you do.
But when you're rich and you don't believe in free will and you believe in like God, you're gonna be okay.
Yeah. That element of it driving you, the belief in free will, is very interesting and very how, as you said, it's class determinant.
Yo, this is what I'm saying. Like, cosmic truths are ironic.
Yeah.
I could trust it if it sounds like, I'll never trust it if it sounds so sincere and perfect. I'm like, no, I don't trust it. But if it's like ironic, I'm like, yeah, it makes perfect sense. Our soul knows this. Our soul knows that like the cosmic truths are ironic. That's why irony is like a high IQ thing to perceive.
Yeah, it is. I guess the question we keep coming back to is how to live a good life. And these are all not even rules. These are suggestions for living a good life.
Well, here's what I know not to do.
Yes.
Don't listen to Keanu Reeves.
Yeah? Why is that?
Nick Rochefort mentioned this video, and the way he described it, like I just had to look it up, and like it was true. Like I found the video that he was referencing, and it was just Keanu Reeves' interview, and he's like, the guy was like, what's a perfect day to you? And Keanu Reeves was like, well, I wake up and I have a little bit of sex, and then I smoke a bit of weed, have a little bit of sex, do a little bit of reading, have a little bit of sex, then I ride my motorcycle, meet up with some friends, have drinks, then have a little bit of sex, then I do some dancing, go out dancing, go out drinking, have a little bit of sex. And I'm like, if you worship this guy, you're a tool.
Yeah, that's a disproportionate amount of caring about sex.
What?
A disproportionate amount of caring about sex.
Yeah, like this fucking F word. Like
is that fucking fuck. This fucking faggot.
Yeah. And like, God damn it, Keanu Reeves, why you gotta talk like a faggot? Like, come on, man. Have a little bit of sex,
Yeah.
Do a little bit of reading.
He's a very.
I bet I've read Hunter S. Thompson before fucking his like liberal dreaded like white girl, gray dreads wife.
Yeah.
Like
his older girlfriend.
Do a little bit of ayahuasca, have a little bit of sex.
A very Joe Rogan.
Go for a bike ride, have a bit of sex. Ride my motorcycle, have a little bit of sex.
Eat dinner, have a little bit of sex.
Eat some lamb chops, have a little bit of sex.
Jack off,
have a little bit of sex. Yo, he would, yo. But yeah, so this is I don't agree with that way of living. Like I don't think you should have a little bit of sex every time. I think you should only have sex like once a week.
Ooh, I like that. That's even a little bit much. Perhaps
I think that once a week,
twice a year.
No. I think one to two times a week is good.
Yeah, actually, that's a reasonable amount of sex.
You know why? Because
a reasonable amount of little sex.
No, it's because I like the tension. You know, especially if you're with a bitch and it's like you set a rule. It's like we can only have.
Yeah.
First of all, if you went up to a woman that you're with and it's like you told her it's like we can only have sex 2 days out of the week, and she's like, "What? Why?" It's like because I said so. You fucking cunt. What are you gonna fucking argue with me? And she's like, all right, fine. 2 days a week. All right, you think I care? You think I get their pride will kick in. They'll be like, you think I care that we could only and it'll become a really hot game. Like, you know, like you should do that. So if you're a guy with your shit together and you get a girlfriend, just be like, go up to her and be like, listen, bitch, can only have sex 2 times a week. All right? Yeah. And then just see what she does, and you'll see she'll try all sorts of games. She'll try to manipulate. She'll be like, oh, then I guess we won't do this, then blah blah blah, and then no blowjobs. No, stick to your fucking guns. And then if you could stick to it and you beat her at this game, yo, she will be your bitch. Like she will be your fucking pet. Like you could do whatever you want with her. Like just it's a fun game too. It's like we can only have sex 2 days out of the week, bitch.
Yeah. The reverse Keanu Reeves sex schedule.
Yeah. And you could break your own rule too. And she's like, I thought you said we could only do this 2 days out of the week. You're like, nah, I changed my mind, bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Master's course in gaslighting and psychological manipulation.
Well, that's what they want.
Yeah, it's true.
In a safe, positive, wholesome way. But yeah, it has to be aggressive and a little dark, which is nice. You know, I get it. I don't knock it, you know. It's all good in the hood. What's not good is when, like, you know, you make a baby and suddenly, like, you get irresponsible about that. It's like, nah, like, I mean, if I had a baby, like, I can't, I mean, I'm not above, like, ditching it. It's just, I don't feel right ditching my child unless, like, I taught it all my kata, you know, like I taught all my swords.
I wouldn't want to, and would reevaluate or reappraise everything. Everything's redirected.
I would only abandon my child after I taught it all my swords techniques, and I'll be like, all right, now you know all my martial arts. Now I could just let you do whatever the fuck you want. It's all on you, you know. Like I gave you all the tools, like, because it's not just about like learning how to use a sword, but it's like the process of learning them. It's like it's gonna teach you everything about life. It's like, damn, my dad told me that it's not my fault. It's not their fault if I get hit. It's my fault. And it's like, that applies to work too. Holy shit. You know, it's like
all your martial arts training is passed down onto your kids that you will soon abandon.
Yeah.
I like the idea of being a deadbeat dad, but only after your kids turn 18.
I like the idea.
Your kids turn 18 and then you you run off on the mom and you just start a new life.
Well, here's the choices: is either you're a deadbeat dad or you're an overbearing dad who your kids hate eventually. What would you prefer? I'd rather be the deadbeat dad, because at least as a deadbeat dad, I could, you know, like I could do whatever I want.
Right, true.
Whereas, you know, the emasculated fucking like American Beauty dad, like I don't want to be Kevin Spacey in that movie.
Right.
You know, like he had a terrible ending. He got shot in the head by a gay Nazi. Like that's no way to die and live.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful movie.
It's an interesting movie because
I'm sorry,
it went
like
from being deeply loved to deeply hated. But
I'm not saying Kevin Spacey's a good guy, but I think he is literally one of the best actors to ever live. It would be so funny if Kevin Spacey like saw this like podcast one day and he was like, "God damn."
I agree. But he's saying all of this in his Frank Underwood House of Cards accent.
I think it wasn't about like just the role. It was the fact. It wasn't even like The West Wing, because this role offered prestige in a way that The West Wing could not. Because The West Wing had to follow the conventions of like NBC rules, you know, like whereas House of Cards was pure like
cynicism.
Yeah, so it was beautiful in a way. And Frank Underwood, very few actors get to actually be the president of the United States.
Yeah, that's true. Did a good job. Everyone loved him in that.
Who are your favorite actors that were president?
That were president? I don't know. Kevin Spacey, Harrison Ford.
What was Harrison Ford president in?
Air Force One.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, yeah. Damn, that was good.
Harrison Ford is a great actor. Yeah, great in the role of president. Very significant. Jamie Foxx in White House Down.
Dude, I'm so glad I'm not a war veteran. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
I feel like I'll be like 60% less of a person if I had to fight a war. Like, honestly. And that's not to knock the people who actually fought a war, but I will say, like, on a mental and physical level, you guys are geniuses. Like
Jeff Daniels in Independence Day, was he the president in that? I just think
oh
of,
my God.
was it
Fuck.
Jeff Daniels or was it someone else?
This is our...
What? Yeah, this is our Independence Day.
Oh my God. He was better than Will Smith, honestly, in that movie.
Yeah, he was, even though I liked.
Because in the movie, they even mentioned you're too young to be president. Like, there was no
Yeah.
president as young as you. Like, this is not right. You know, like...
Bill Pullman as president. Well, it was Bill Pullman, not Jeff Daniels. And then Jeff Goldblum was in it.
Yo, let's play a fun game.
What's that game?
Who do you think would have played a better president in that movie than him?
Ooh, I don't know. Jeff Daniels.
Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
Imagine Kevin Spacey as president in Independence Day. No, that would have been too. That would have been too whack.
Freeman has been president in several movies, but I don't know what.
He was also Morgan Freeman was literally God.
Yeah, he was that in Bruce
Bruce
Almighty.
Almighty. Yo, that was a good fucking movie. That was one of Jim Carrey's. Honestly,
Yes, best roles. Jim Carrey has a lot of great roles. Obviously, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I Love You, Phil Morris. Let's see. Morgan Freeman is president and Olympus Has Fallen. And I guess that's the film in particular. Yeah, let's see. Aaron Eckhart, Gerard Butler, Morgan Freeman as the president. Okay, go on.
so there is a scale of cognitive perception when it comes
Yeah.
to how much do you really care about the authority of the president? I mean,
Yeah.
how much do you really believe there is like a cabal, a transcontinental cabal that controls truly everything outside of, conventional politics that we're made to be aware of, which is becoming more evident day to day.
Yeah, it exists, but I don't know if it's that influential.
I think it's pretty influential.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, I think the fact that like only 5 companies own like all the companies really kind of like tells you something. It makes you feel like all those companies are more powerful than any senator,
Yeah.
I mean, here's what I think politics gives you, like positions in Congress, positions in the Senate, and all that shit. It gives you power over the military. It gives you power over like military operations and like military power a little bit to some vague degree.
Yeah.
But I think even above them, there is a power above that. For example, like corporate power can sometimes impede upon political power, and political power can sometimes impede upon corporate power.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about binaries like that, there's always a third leg that we're not aware of,
Yes. Secret organizations revolving around that, around power, around organization.
Let's think about the Masonic logic, like Freemasons, for example.
Yes.
I mean, all right, I have a lot of beef with the Freemasons because I think they're engaged with a lot of like pedophilia, satanic like rituals and all that shit, and sex trafficking.
My guess is that at this point, the Freemasons are just a club for old men. But go on.
No, I don't think so at all. I think they've evolved. I think they've had plenty of time to evolve. I think such a strong lineage. I think like the fact that like every major president, the founding fathers were all Freemasons, like it's all significant shit. And if they were around for that long, they literally predated all the quote unquote UFO crashes. So there's a chance that they may have orchestrated a lot of it, like all that shit. Also, when it comes to technological development and technological manifestation, when you come up with a printing press, like a printing technology, when you have that, you could basically control all information within 2 or 3 generations tops. You're able to create the foundations for whatever truth you want.
Yeah.
If you control that technology. So essentially, we're talking about language. Who has the most control over language?
Most control over language. Let's see. A lot of changes ostensibly come from the grassroots, from the youth, from minorities, etc., from channers. You have very rich and powerful people that can control media dissemination of what it becomes prominent or not. You have education. You have mainstream media. What else are you thinking?
Symbolic.
Go on.
Okay, so on a cultural level,
yeah,
there's this whole popular idiom calling America a melting pot.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily true. Like, to borrow from Metal Gear Solid 5,
go on.
America is not a melting pot. It's more like a salad bowl.
Yeah, and you're tossing it every day.
And the dressing is the English language.
Yeah.
So when you're able to control that, I mean, then you have significant power. And that's what controlling printing. I mean, before the internet, it was all about printing and press. It's like pressing it on paper and distributing it. And when you have the technology to print the same thing on paper over and over again, what you were essentially doing is you were programming humanity. And you had the most visceral way to do it, just putting sigils and words and symbols before them constantly.
Right.
And that programmed us.
Then you have full media exposure. You can create a false consciousness overlaying the world,
which is actually very funny. So what this tells you is that that was the demiurge. That was a manifestation of the demiurge of Satanism and all that shit, of control and power and control over people's energy and chi. But if you look at a timeline in terms of economic development as opposed to intellectual development, the Industrial Revolution was very divorced from the Renaissance. If you look at the Renaissance period, it's almost like the peak of the contributions of the Renaissance ended as the Industrial Revolution was ramping up.
It's the difference of 400 years, but yes.
But no, I mean, it was a gradual process, yes, but you could see the overlap of waves. As one wave dies down of the Renaissance period, you see industrialization going up, kicking up. And that really was about a change in values. And it was because a few men discovered a technology where they're able to disseminate and distribute information as they saw fit. I don't know who they are, historically or whatever.
I don't know, Gutenberg.
I literally wouldn't know at all. Probably you wouldn't know. None of us would know who was the one that decided. He probably even knew. Foresaw. I cannot allow myself to be perceived. Even because he knew the power of what it meant when once he knew that, oh, you're telling me that I could print this out on slabs of dead wood,
Gutenberg's Bible. Printing exists before that point. English, or rather Latin, Western languages have the benefit of a phonetic alphabet.
Who invented printing? Was it the Chinese or the Dutch?
Chinese. But the big difference is that movable type is a lot.
Because when we're talking about earlier as printing, I'm not talking like we're about machines printing.
Well, yeah.
Is like you take a slab with like like indentation.
Yeah, the Chinese invented it.
Yeah.
The difference is that the
Who
Chinese
used it to
language
such
is way more complex than Western languages.
Whereas,
Movable type is a lot more viable of a technology in Western languages because you only have 26 blocks you need to move.
it's more possible to program people through Western linguistics than Eastern linguistics.
It's easier to print things in Western languages
Yes.
than in Eastern languages.
So it gives you
because
more
of the phonetic alphabet.
Yes.
It's easy. Japanese and Korean have the benefit of also having phonetic alphabets that can more easily be printed.
And yet they still have a connection to the characterization of the Chinese, of classical Chinese.
But China is hampered by the fact that you need to know 500 characters or whatever to read.
But that's
Chinese.
still more of a connection to the ancient perception of language and communication.
Yes.
The more modern one is this like syntax based thing.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad. I don't think the syntax based linguistics is bad. It's just it's not the whole picture.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think the character based language system is bad either. It's just not the whole picture. Like you should know both.
Yeah. A lot of the time, I read whole word. How do you read? Do you use phonetic? Is when you're spelling out every word you're reading on page.
Actually, I don't know how to answer
And
this question, but what I can do is share an experience. So,
Yeah.
I was at this girl's place.
Yeah.
And she was like a fucked up chick. And
Yes.
like I didn't know she was smart. I like this is when I realized she was smart, right? So she was like, she would always say, "Oh yeah, I'm so fucked up right now. Yeah, I'm so leaned out right now." And then we were in her bedroom, which is a mess in Brooklyn or some shithole like Bushwick apartment. And she's like, "Read this book," and I was like, "All right." And I was drunk, and I was like reading it, and it was like a fantasy novel. So I was like, "And this boy stood upon his tree stump apartment, and he decided that he would do this, and blah blah." And I read like with a certain tone, like where I was actually like inflecting emotion. And then it changed the whole vibe of the moment because like she realized like, oh, you actually immerse yourself in this shit. So I think it's not really the system that matters, it's your intention that matters. That's how you become a master of not linguistics, but like of transmitting frequency of communication. It's like
Right.
it's like, oh, like you might want to be in this mode of communicate. So that's really what it's about,
Yes. Interesting regarding language and communication.
Inflection too also matters.
Yeah.
Intention. Also, like what also taught me a lot about communication was living with my cat. I don't have roommates, but I have this cat. And
You're interacting with your cat on a purely empathetic, emotional level, or more a physical one.
Yeah.
You can't ask Mochi what he's feeling at this moment.
Yeah, but he could just,
Feel him or interact with him, yeah.
Also, he acts like a dick when he's upset. Like he makes my life difficult when he's not happy.
Yeah.
Like when he's not happy about a situation, he'll like flip shit over. He'll make a mess.
Yeah.
He'll be like he'll he'll make my life harder.
Yeah.
He'll be like, I'm not happy right now, and that forces me to communicate, in a way outside of words. It's like,
Yeah.
I gotta like discern patterns. What's funny? Like, if you look at like a lot of like esoteric traditions that break down conventional religions, they all say it's like, oh, we break down the spirit, and the spirit is
Yeah.
like a living, it's a living frequency, and all that shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like this. I'm like, well, yeah, it's all patterns. Like if you can master patterns, then you can master the spirits of something. It's like things behave in patterns. Everything behaves. We behave in patterns.
Yeah.
And if you can master those patterns, that's the divine. And if you look at any IQ test, what are they testing for? They're testing for pattern recognition skills. They're testing for your skills and recognizing spirit and patterns.
Yes.
It's all spiritual.
Anyway, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm glad it's not like too late.
Yeah. Later than we've often been recording lately, but
No, I mean,
it's not too late.
no, I mean, I figure we got 10 more minutes, but no, it was a good recording. It was a lot of it was a contemplative episode.
Yes, I agree. On this Labor Day, contemplative of our emotional labor, of our mental labor,
Dude, this
artistic labor, spiritual labor.
dude, when you look at like the YouTube channel for this podcast, it's like the most unmarketable podcast in the world, which I'm proud of. You know, it
Yes.
should be unmarketable, because if it's unmarketable, then there's a chance for it to be spiritually uplifting. Because I don't think anything marketable can be spiritually uplifting.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be marketable. I'm trying to just be honest, authentic. Like, you know, when you listen to my podcast, I don't want you to think I'm going to listen to something good or I'm going to listen to something bad. When you listen to my podcast, I want you to think I'm going to listen to something real. I'm going to listen to something that's as shitty as it was or as good as it was. You know, like, this is exactly what he was feeling. And at least me as a person, I'm going to try to do my best. So I'm not going to try to make shit. You know, I'm not going to try to be shit. I'm not going to try to express shit. I'm going to try to express. I'm an optimist. I really am. I'm a cynical optimist. And that sounds like a paradox, but it's not. It's not It's not a paradox. It's a very real way to be. Cynical optimism. I think that's.
Yeah.
It's like
an ideal state of being or a good state of being.
So, closing statements. My closing statement is, when it comes to your energy, I'm not gonna like, you know, go on a tangent about what your energy actually means. All I'm gonna say, if you know, you know. But when it comes to your energy, distribute it so 51% of your energy goes to others and 49% of your energy goes to your own self-development.
Closing statements. I don't know. Live your best life in the time you have, in the time you're experiencing right now. Try not to dwell on your past or your future. Be aware of your future and be aware of what makes it will be most comfortable when you get to it.
I have one more piece of advice.
Go ahead.
If you're a man, a straight man, don't be afraid to suck the clitoris like it's a little tiny penis.
Yeah, agreed.
Like look at the
and put yourself out there. If you don't like the women in whatever social scene you're in right now, go find another one.
Yeah, but when you do get to that point where you're like staring their vagina in the face, just look that clitoris like it's a little penis.
Yeah,
they'll appreciate it. It's like that's how, as good as it feels for you as a guy to get your whole dick sucked. That's how good it feels for a chick to get their clit sucked like it's a little.
Yes.
Dick. Yeah. That's good.
Good night, guys.
Good night.